If you're in the market for a new to read horror manga, I have a recommendation for you, and that is Smile. This series is new-ish. It's completed in Japanese, but it's only got 2 volumes out in English, so like now's the perfect time to join the bandwagon. And I just kind of want to talk about it a little bit. So I want to talk about the author behind it, what happens in volume 1 at least, and then how I felt about it because I liked this volume a lot, so I wanted to dedicate a full video to it. But first, a little bit more behind the manga. It is a seinen horror series, meaning it is a scary story tailored towards an older male audience. That's just for categorizing purposes only. I'm not an older man and I like it a lot. So don't let that bug you. That's just how to categorize it. In Japanese, it is complete with 11 volumes. In English, currently there's only 2 volumes out, with volume 3 coming on May 1st. I'm assuming the English publication will also have 11 volumes because volume 1 is it matches the Japanese volume 1. It is not an omnibus. It's not a 2-in-1, not a 3-in-1. It's a 1-in-1 or a single, I guess it's what they're called. The author is named Mitei Hattori. I was trying very hard to find more information on this author, and I could not find anything. It was a little bit frustrating. When I read a manga, I really, really like to know more about the author. So, like, what inspired them to make the manga? What inspired them to start making manga in general? Where'd they grow up? I like to know things. Like, I know my all-time favorite manga artist is from Kyoto, and I used to live in Kyoto, so I'm like, "Oh, like, we share that." Like, I feel like a little parasocial relationship right there. I just like knowing more stuff about them. Like, I really also like reading, like, the author's notes inside of like, on the sides of my panels now. I like to know what goes on behind the scenes in their minds. So, I was a little bit upset that I searched so far and wide, high and low, and I could not find much about them. What I did find out about them, because I did find like a little tidbits of information. As far as I know, this is their one and only series. In Japanese, it's called Smiley. In English, it's called Smile. I'm not mad at the name changing slightly because I think Smiley in English would be like a little bit sillier in tone. I like Smile in English. So I can't even find a one shot by them. So I'm assuming this is their one and only series. Hopefully they make more because I do really like this one. And I also found a small interview. I could only find one, but a small interview about their like manga making process behind making Smile or Smiley. And I'm gonna link it below. It is in Japanese, but Google Translate is your friend. But I'm gonna talk about just a couple things that I found interesting from the interview, loosely translated because it's Japanese. I'm not a translator, so just like take that with a grain of salt. So to start, this book, Smile, is about a religious cult. Just putting that in there. And in the interview, they were asked, what inspired you to create a manga all about a religious cult? And they answer that when they were younger, they worked in a part-time job and they had a female coworker. And through talking, the author realized that this coworker is a second generation religious member or like religious group member, meaning that her parents were in the religion and she was born into the religion. She grew up in a very, very strict household, so no forms of entertainment whatsoever were allowed. All she could do was religious activities. So, of course, when talking to the author, all she could talk about was religious stuff because if you don't watch TV, you can't talk about pop culture. If you don't listen to the radio, you can't talk about music. You're kind of stuck with that. And so the author was given his first glimpse into the world of religion. And the author said they found it kind of interesting that the coworker eventually broke it to him that actually, in secret, she does watch YouTube, but she could never, ever tell her parents that. And they found it kind of interesting thinking, rather than that being a religious problem, it seems more like a familial problem, like not listening to what your parents want rather than not listening to what your religion wants. And the coworker would talk about how even though she knows she's kind of disobeying her parents' orders, she could never tell them and she could never break off contact with them, even though they're so strict because they're her parents. And it's kind of a very complicated relationship. So that was their very first glimpse into any religion, apparently. And then talking about the author themselves, they said their parents themselves were very, very strict growing up, even if they weren't technically religious. They were just strict people. In their house, they always seemed very, very angry and upset. They just seemed like kind of generally unkind people. But when they went out of the house, their parents were always praised as, "Oh, they're so nice. You're so lucky to have such kind parents. They seem so lovely." And the author was kind of conflicted because, like, at home, they're scary. Like, when we're outside and they're smiling, they're still scary because they know that when they go home, they're gonna be angry again. Like, the smiles, even though they're smiling and that should mean they're happy and kind, they felt like fake smiles because they know, like, in general, like, their base emotions is a negative one, not a happy one. So they started to kind of think about how, like, are other people the same? Like, when I see other people out and about smiling behind closed doors, are they also like angry, upset people? And it kind of messed with their head. And then just like a couple other like super quick tidbits from the interview that I found to be pretty interesting. They talked about how, well, the story is like a secular movement or about like a religious cult bringing in new people. First and foremost, it is a human drama. So, like, human drama first, that just so happens to take place within a cult. And they said a lot of people, a lot of the readers seem to think of it as a family story or like a parent child story. So, we'll see how that goes. I thought that was interesting, so I want to include it. And then they also talk about their art style, which I personally really like. And they say they drew the art with a kind of a storyboard. Like, you know, when in movies you draw the storyboard before you film, like that. They drew it with a storyboard kind of style because they wanted to focus more on the art than a whole bunch of words on the page. They wanted the art to speak for itself. And I like that. And then lastly, the last little tidbit from the interview that I found to be interesting was they wanted to convey that no matter how positive something can be, so like for example, a smile, you smile when you're happy, you'll laugh when you think something is funny, that should be something good. But no matter what goodness something should have, when it's forced, so like when someone like holds you holds you at point and says laugh, you can laugh, but it doesn't come from a good place. They're pretty different. So no matter how good something should be, when it comes from a place of like forced or like manipulation or coercion, it kind of gets twisted and is no longer a good thing. And like all of that is baked into to volume one, to volume one here. From here, I'm going to talk about generally what happens in volume one of Smile. I'm going to talk more in depth about the parts that I personally find interesting or I find more important to the overall story. But I am by no means talking about everything because I think you should read it for yourself because it is a very good story. So, we are introduced to our main character, Yushi, who I like to refer to as an investigative journalist. In the story, he's only referred to as a journalist, but throughout the story, at least volume one, he goes in deep into the investigative side of journalism. And he also has ties, like light ties, but still ties to the police in one of his friends being a police investigator who sometimes helps him get stories. So to me, he's earned the title of an investigative journalist. So, but he's just a journalist in this story. I like to call him an investigative journalist. So we meet him at a rather dark time in his life. He lost his wife and daughter. Daughter passed away very, very young, and that passing away caused him and his wife to separate. His wife, named Megumi, like left him, and we don't know where she went. He doesn't know where she went, so she is just gone, and he is very, very depressed. He's promised himself he will never smile again because he has nothing to be happy for. So he goes to work day by day, just kind of going through the motions. He doesn't have a lot of money. His journalistic writing and whatnot hasn't been the best. And then all of a sudden, he gets a knock at the door. And he opens it, and there's two older women smiling so big that their eyes are basically closed because their mouths are so smiley. And Yushi, our main character, already has a difficult time with other people's smiles. He finds them to be kind of creepy, kind of unnatural. So when he's seeing these two women clearly smiling as hard as they possibly can, who knows why, he's already creeped out. And they look at him and they say, "You don't look all that happy. Would you like to join the Smiling Hearts Society? If you do, you will be happy for the rest of your life. You'll be smiling, you'll be laughing, you will only know joy." And Yushi is like, "Get off my property. You're weird. Go away." And he goes to slam the door. But before he can get it fully closed, one of them sticks her hands in between the door and the rail, and it slams on her hand, and it's like you can imagine what it looks like when a door slammed into your knuckles. But she doesn't even wince. She is still there, plastered with a smile on her face. And Yushi is extra creeped out because they're weird. They're weird. And before he can say anything or push them away, they hand him a flyer and say, "Hope to see you at church soon." And they walk away. And Yushi looks at the flyer and is flabbergasted because who does he see but his wife, Megumi, the wife that left him on this promotional poster for this very, very strange cult like church. And he thinks, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to find my wife, my ex wife, maybe, I don't know, but he's going to find her. So he goes to his friend who is working with the police and says, "Hey, do you know anything about the Smiling Hearts Society?" And his friend instantly is like, "No, no, no, drop it. Do not ask me any questions. Do not Google anything. Erase the name of that society from your mind. Stop thinking about it." And Yushi is like, I'm going to think about it even harder. I'm going to join the cult, because it is a cult. I'm going to join it and I'm going to find my wife and nobody can stop me. And that's what he does. He joins the cult under a fake name. They call him Mr. Sato. And they welcome Mr. Sato to the church with a group communal laughing competition, laughing festival. I don't know what to call it. But they all like circle him and like aggressively laugh at him. And Yushi has to be like, "Oh, this is lovely." But on the inside, he's like, "Oh my God, this is terrifying. What's happening right now? Oh my God, you're creepy. Stop that." But he has to pretend to be like bathing in the laughter of these strange people because he wants to find his wife. From there, we cut to Yushi going back to work, and he is looking up Smiling Heart Society on the work computer. And his boss comes by and sees him Googling Smiling Heart Society, says, "Drop it. Stop looking into it." So we have both somebody who knows a lot about journalism, because he's the journalism boss. I don't know what to call him. And a police officer, both warning him, stop. So clearly, he should probably stop. But he wants to find his wife, you know? What can you do? Tells him to stop. She's like, "No, I'm not gonna stop. They know me by Mr. Sato. I'm safe." And so he goes back to the church or the cult, and we meet a new character who seems to be very prevalent in the Smiling Hearts Society. It's a woman. She is one of the rare church members who we see without a smile constantly plastered on her face. So I can only assume she is rather high up. And we see Yushi being all Mr. Smarty Pants and tells the creepy woman, who is clearly a high member of the church, "I only joined the church because of this lovely person on the promotional poster. I would love to meet her. Where is she? Show me to her right now." Clearly trying to find his wife. And the woman is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. She's in a different sector. She's not here right now." But like clearly she knows something. And like clearly that's a suspicious question. Who joins a church and is like, "I only want to meet this person. Bring them to me." I think that's weird. But so Yushi kind of let his reasoning slip, I think, here. I think that was his first mistake, but we don't know. Back at work, we see Yushi's boss, the journalism boss, going through Yushi's computer to try and figure out just how much he's found out about the church in general, what he's done so far. He's clearly really, really, really worried about Yushi, but we don't really know why. Up until here, we haven't really seen anything that the church has done, but there is a teeny tiny bit of foreshadowing, and I'm not going to say exactly what happens, but it's clear that Mr. Sato is already known to be Yushi, in my opinion. Like, it's already known. It's clear that the church knows who he is and knows where he works already. So it's clear Yushi is not the best secret keeper, or at the very least, it's clear that he is not. He's underestimated the power of the church, of like the network, the knowledge network of the church. It's clear. And it's from here that the story slowly starts to get creepier and creepier, because while it is like about a cult, it's not just about a cult. Because again, we follow the journalism side and we follow the police side. It's just heavier on the journalism side because that's what our main character is. So as we go along, we see Yushi and that clearly high ranking member of the church. We see him follow her home. And again, he thinks he's being sneaky. He thinks like, "Oh, I'm being so sneaky. She'll never know. I'm gonna follow her home. I'm gonna learn where she lives, and I'm gonna stalk her, basically." But she knows clearly. She knows she's being followed. She outs him right away. But they're kind of playing a game, at least to me, where they both have like secrets. Clearly, she has a lot more than he does, but they both have secrets that they don't want the other to know. So they're clearly putting on a front. She is creepy. Like she's pretty creepy, even without a smile plastered on her face, because again, she's somehow able to have a neutral face at times. She's still really creepy. She still knows a lot. And the two of them have like a little tea party. It's really weird. But on the police investigative side, we see like actually there's a lot of crime happening, but we don't know why. And I can only assume it has something to do with the Smiling Heart Society, but here we don't know. All we know is the church is being really creepy, and there's a lot of like really violent crimes happening that nobody knows why. And they're pretty, like, it's clear that they're all being done by the same person or peoples, the same group of people, because there is like a calling card or like every crime done has the same like method. It's all the same kind of. From here, Yushi is given a like prime opportunity by the woman he's having the tea party. It's not really a tea party, I just like to call it that. He's told that like, hey, if you can prove yourself to be a dedicated member of the church, there's a birthday party happening for somebody very, very high up in the church happening soon. If you can prove yourself worthy, you can attend that birthday party. That beautiful woman from the flyer that you joined the church to meet will be there. You can meet her. And he's like, I'm going. I don't care if it's a trap. I don't care about anything. I believe you. I take you at face value. And so he believes her, and he goes through with proving himself to be a dedicated member by joining a ritual of intense laughter for 3 days and 3 nights. And one can imagine the toll that forcibly laughing for 3 days and 3 nights takes on a person's body. I don't think you physically could do that. Can you? Tell me if you can, please, because I feel like you would lose your voice really, really quickly. Your stomach would like give out. That would really hurt. I don't know. I've never done it, and I'm not planning on doing it. But so that happens, and we learn some more about the police investigative side. It is a little bit gory. I'm not going to talk about it here because it'll give too much away, and you need to read it yourself, please. But so we learn more about the police side. It's gross. And then we see Yushi. He passes the test. He laughed so good that he's allowed to join the birthday celebration. Only they do some weird stuff to him to get him there. And then when he gets there, he realizes everybody has a mask on their face. So like, if Megumi's there, if she's not there, he doesn't know. Everybody's wearing a mask. Nobody's allowed to talk to each other. It's really, really weird. It's weird. And it's there that we learn a lot. And I can't really say what happens here without spoiling the entire story, but it's crazy. So at the birthday party, I'm not going to spoil a lot because it is crazy, but at the birthday party, it's very clear, at least to me, that Yushi is already known to be Yushi, not Mr. Sato, by everybody in the church, basically, because even the higher ups clearly, without telling him, like, I know who you are, you liar, they clearly know who he is. Like, you can't tell me they don't. They do, okay? They do. And it's weird. They like greet him kind of creepily. The whole thing is very, very ritualistic. So like everybody is made to stand up in a line. And you know, like a Catholic church where like you get the wafer cookies and like a sip of wine or whatever. It's kind of like that. But instead of getting anything, you get like FaceTime kind of with the birthday boy. And then something creepy happens, and then the volume ends. It does end on a big cliffhanger, to me at least. So I'm very excited to read volume 2. But yeah, that was the overall story of Smile. Volume 1, at the very least. I do, like when I read the interview, I read their interview after reading volume 1, but I really understood what the author meant when they said it was more human drama first, religious story second. Because it is clear the story is really focused on Yushi and like all of his hang-ups, trying to find his wife, trying to like manage the small social relationships he has left, with his police friend and whatnot. I really liked it. I already am a big fan of like horror, and I find cult stories to be interesting. I have a heck of a time finding cult stories already. I think the last cult horror manga that I read was Kichikujima, about like people on an island. And that's a crazy one. It's very different from Smile. But I have a difficult time finding them. I don't think they're all that popular, which is a shame because they are very, very interesting. But yeah, that was Smile. If you've read it, let me know, please. Only about volume one, because I everything else would be a spoiler to me. This whole video was big spoilers. But let me know what you think, because I really, really liked it and I like talking about it. Yeah.